What's up, guys? This is Brave, and I'm back with another review of Tyler Perry's Sistas. This is Season 2, Episode 10. The episode is titled The Encounters. So let's go ahead and get this started. So the episode, it actually opens up where it left off last episode, with Maurice standing outside of the bank with Alonzo. Alonzo has pulled up on him, and he's like saying how he beat that ass and whatever else Alonzo had to say. Like, honestly, I feel like their back and forth, it lasted a bit long for me, but I did love that Maurice, he stood up for himself throughout this entire scene, because Alonzo was definitely trying to punk him, and basically he showed up because he was upset that Maurice was pressing charges. And it's like, dude, you did beat him up, and yes, this was a hate crime. You were mad because he is a gay man. I'm sorry, but no, Maurice should not drop the charges. You're going to jail, and that's going to be that. And the fact that he's worried about his reputation, I'm like, Alonzo, just go away and leave. The one thing that did kind of make me laugh, though, in this scene was when Maurice was like, the last time you saw me, I had on a dress and some heels, but now I got on my hood clothes or my street clothes. Now what's up? And I'm like, first of all, you have on, a vest and a collared shirt. I wouldn't exactly call that hood, but I get what you're saying, Maurice. So, next thing you know, though, they start fighting, and I was so happy that, like, Maurice was really getting Alonzo, and I was like, yes, Maurice, whoop his ass, the same way he kept saying he whooped yours, okay? Like, don't you ever try to second guess someone because of their sexuality that they can't fight you. And, like, let's not get it twisted. Like, Alonzo is a really big, more on the buff side type of dude, but Maurice held it down, and I was so proud of him. So in the next scene, we see Danny and Sabrina. They're already at the restaurant that everyone is supposed to meet at for Andy to announce that, she got her job back. So they're just basically updating each other on each other's lives, and Sabrina is basically telling Danny that she's going to have Calvin drug tested, and Danny is like, how are you going to do that? And Sabrina's like, oh, well, he's going to be moving in with Maurice, so you can't move in with someone without getting drug tested. And I'm like, that's not exactly how that works, but sure, Sabrina. I still feel some type of way about her using Maurice to drug test Calvin instead of her having a conversation, because that's what an adult real woman would be doing, is having a conversation with Calvin. I also kind of laughed within this scene when, after she said all this, Danny's like, well, you know what, I see that I'm rubbing off on you, because honestly, getting someone else to do the drug test, that would be something that Danny would do. The ladies, they further talk about how Calvin is basically moving in with Maurice because of, his whole financial situation with him giving his dads the money or whatever. And, like, Sabrina checked his bank accounts. And you guys, if y'all know anybody who works at a bank, or just so that you know how the bank system works, the bank checks everything that you do. So the fact that she's just, casually saying like, oh yeah, I checked his accounts or whatever, and it's like, girl, you would be fired. Like, would you stop doing things that could possibly get you fired? I don't even understand it. Like, again, this is something that she should be having a conversation with Calvin about. Well, actually, no. I wouldn't even say she needs to have a conversation with Calvin about his finances, because at this point, they're not together, and that's none of her business. Like, I really feel like Sabrina is like a little girl. the things that she shouldn't know or shouldn't be doing, she oversteps her boundaries. But when she should be, being a woman and talking to someone, she acts like a child. And like, no, I can't do it. I need someone else to do it for me. Like, just grow up, Sabrina. So after that, guys, we see Gary, and he is sitting outside of Andy's apartment like we already knew that he would be. Gary is just proving that he's definitely psychotic. And, he gets a call from his friend. I believe it's the same guy who got him out of jail, his frat brother. I can't remember what his name is. And he's basically like, I got a call that you showed up to her job and that, you guys were arguing in the parking lot and all this stuff. So basically he has to convince Gary to leave from Andy's house, because he could definitely go back to jail. And Gary agrees to meet up with the guy at his house. So Karen arrives, and I mean, she is looking so beautiful. I love that red on her skin tone, and like the new hairstyle that she's been wearing, it looks so good on her. So she arrives, and she's like glowing, and the ladies are like, ooh, like what's all this? You have a new hairstyle, and what is giving you like this boost of energy? And she's like, she's just happy or whatever. And like Sabrina is like, yeah, she has Aaron. And Karen quickly shuts that down, like, no, it's not even like that, because as we know, her and Aaron, they haven't exactly done anything. The ladies still want to know why, not Sabrina, oh my gosh, why Karen is, so happy. And she's like, well, Aaron, he did put a smile on my face because he offered me some money, for me to go out. And like the ladies were on the same page as her, like, oh my god, like, what? He did that? Does he have a brother, a cousin, or somebody that's like that? And she even says that, no guy has ever offered her money to go out. And of course, Zach is not going to be able to offer her money because he was always broke. And she said that not even her own dad offered her money when she was like going out or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's interesting because, we don't really know much about these ladies' backgrounds. So now that we kind of, know something about Karen's dad, and we already know like her mom, she's a very interesting character. So I would love to know more about that dynamic of Karen and her father. So when Karen mentions that, that first lady came into her salon, here goes Danny talking about how, she's changing and how Aaron is changing her or whatever. And I'm like, they're saying this like as if Karen, not cursing or, building a relationship with God is like such a bad thing. Like, I feel like if she was like going in like the wrong direction and like, starting to do drugs or something, that's when I would give this a side eye. Like, her changing for the better is not a bad thing. But I mean, I get it, because sometimes your friends just want you to stay the same. So we get a quick scene with Zach giving Fatima a call. He just wants to let her know that he's going to go back to the house and work on fixing the house or whatever, even though I'm kind of confused at him just going to go pop up to go work on this house and no one else in the program knowing that he's there. But I guess because Fatima knows it's okay, he's just going to go work for like 1 to 2 hours or whatever. And, she's cool with that. She's just like, oh, okay, I should be back home by then, whatever. And she ends up ending the conversation by saying, like, be careful. And he responds in a typical Zach fashion, yeah, I know. And she's like, you're supposed to say it back. And one thing that she said in this conversation, which kind of, I'm just kind of like over it at this point, is that she has to like teach him these things. And I get it that, you know, Zach and what's her name? Karen. I get that Zach and Karen didn't have the greatest relationship, but I kind of hate the fact that like him and Fatima, she's treating this like as if he's never been in a relationship before. Like, no, this is just a part of Zach's personality. This has nothing to do with how he's been treated in relationships before. Zach can just be an a-hole sometimes. We see Fatima, she's meeting the ladies, and of course Andy is still not there. And I honestly thought that Danny was going to put two and two together and figure it out that this is the same Fatima that was talking to Zach, but she did not. She actually did not figure that, or she didn't figure it out or say anything this entire episode about that. And we see Fatima and Karen, they are getting along. And honestly, I do want them to have a friendship just because they, you know, had really good energy talking about, you know, Karen possibly doing Fatima's hair and how Fatima has had, you know, some bad experiences with different hairstylists. So, like, I just don't want this to turn into because she's kind of talking to Zach later on in the season, you know, these ladies are like having an issue, because I feel like both of them are grown women and they act like adults and they're going to be fine. So we get this next scene with Gary. He's talking in front of his friend's house. I think the guy's name is like Ellis or something. I don't know. Don't really care. I'm tired of seeing Gary at this point, just popping up places, you know, whining about Andy and just being controlling and all that stuff. I'm just gonna go ahead and skip right on over that. So Andy, she finally arrives, and I must say, she looked really pretty. I like the dress on her because, you know, she has a great body, but I'm just kind of confused because I'm like, girl, you should have been wearing that dress when y'all went out to the club. You going to dinner right now, but whatever. She lets the ladies know that, you know, she got her job back with a promotion, as well as, you know, her getting some extra funds, because we all know she got that over $1 million settlement from the law firm. And she's like, you know, I want to order some champagne to celebrate. And Fatima's like, oh, you know, I got it. What was so strange to me was when Andy was like, didn't you need to get some money from Gary so that you could pay your student loans or whatever? And I'm like, what do you mean that Fatima needed money from your man? Like, when did that happen? I'm so confused on that one, because I'm like, how does Fatima know Gary outside of him dating you? And like, how would she feel comfortable enough to like tell you that she needs money for her student loans from him? That whole thing was kind of weird to me. And also, just like, this was probably, again, one of the only times that we've heard or seen Andy acknowledge Fatima as her ride or die and being, you know, the main reason why she even still has a job, because she's the one who got Hayden involved, and she also went and hid some of them files. So when Andy, you know, mentions, you know, the whole Gary thing, Karen is like, can we not mention his name? Because as we know, she's not feeling anything that has to do with Gary, and I'm right there with her. So this later turns into, you know, Danny saying like she got a man waiting at home for her. Karen like, I do too. But did you guys notice that Andy made a face when Karen said that she had, you know, somebody waiting at home for her too? Like, at some point, there's going to be a breaking point where Karen is definitely going to ask Andy, like, what is the problem? Like, what do you see in Aaron that makes you this upset and this jealous? Because at this point, I feel like Andy is very jealous of Karen, because Karen seems to be happy. She's moved on from Zach. And I think that Andy feels like her friends are less than her. And like, am I the only one who has like seen her, like, she basically like downplays Danny, Sabrina, she kind of tolerates, but at the same time, she almost had Sabrina lose her job, and she really didn't care at the end of the day because the focus was, oh my gosh, woe is me. And then when it comes to Karen, Karen has always been, her right hand, but at the same time, Karen was in, a relationship with Zach, and we all knew that that wasn't going anywhere. But now that she sees that Karen is with somebody else who actually seems to care about her, he is a guy that you would consider to be put together, and I think that she has a problem with that. So the next scene was one that I absolutely hated because it had to do with Sabrina, and she was doing her typical pouting and everyone having to drag out information from her, about Calvin and how he wants to commit and how she doesn't know if that's what she wants. But the only reason why she's saying that she doesn't know if that's what she wants is because of the whole accusation of him doing drugs. Like, let's call a thing here. Girl, if he would have told you this, prior to Danny giving you that information, you would have been with that man. Like, come on. I honestly just want her to move on because I'm tired of the Calvin and Sabrina storyline. One thing that I did like about this scene was that Fatima, we did learn a little bit more about her and how she wants to date other men, multi-date. She wants to date 2 or 3 guys at the same time, just to see what she likes. And that kind of makes me wonder, like, is she dating somebody else while she's seeing Zach? Because that would definitely be interesting. So we see that Calvin is actually on a date with another woman, which he absolutely has the right to do because him and Sabrina are not exactly together. They are not exclusive, and she wasn't sure if she wanted to commit. So when she glances over, she starts taking her earrings off. And I'm like, girl, are you going to try to fight the girl or Calvin? Because that woman has nothing to do with the situation. And what does it look like if you're about to attack Calvin? Like, that's stupid. So we finally get to another scene, and it is of Zach. He is at the house working on it or whatever. And who walks in? Hayden. Now, am I crazy, or did we never know that Hayden was involved in this program? Because I just didn't think that he would be. I didn't know where the storyline was going to go, but he pops up. He's like interrogating Zach, asking him all these questions, and basically trying to see if he is messing around with Fatima, which is what? Not his business. And Zach is like, just come out and ask me whatever. And Hayden finally asked him, and I think Zach, he was still kind of, not answering the question. But, like, the fact that Hayden, like, rolled up on Zach this way, I'm over it. I don't care for his character because he was introduced one way, and for him to act like this, I don't like it at all. I mean, I will say that the way he's acting is very similar to how Zach was acting when it came to the Karen and Aaron situation. But the difference is, at least I know that Zach and Karen dated for 3 years. Hayden, you just hooked up with Fatima once, and y'all were friends. I need you to back it up. As well as with him, talking about the boots that Zach had on. And what's funny to me about this situation is that he mentioned that those boots were at Fatima's house. And I'm like, well, when did Zach have time to change shoes? Because I feel like when he walked through that door, he did not take his shoes off. So how are these shoes there for Hayden to see? And why would he switch shoes from some work type boots to go back there and put boots back on? You know what I'm saying? None of that made sense. We'll see where this storyline goes, but I'm not a fan of the whole Hayden trying to be this big bad guy who just wants to profess his love to Fatima and any guy can get it. That's just not his personality, and I think it's really lame that his character was written this way. So we are back to the ladies having dinner, and you know that Sabrina is still going on about her and Calvin and how she wasn't ready to commit, and how she blurted out that he has been accused of doing meth. And you know, the lady's like, how do you know that? So she goes ahead and blurts it out that Danny hooked up with the bartender, and that's how she got all this information. Like, I really hate that because she's feeling some type of way, she decided to put Danny's business out there, because honestly, Danny could have did that herself. Like, I don't see why Sabrina did that. But what was very interesting to me was that Andy was trying to call out Danny for going home with the bartender, and I like that Danny was like, well, you went home with Paris. And here goes Andy talking about, well, I know him, and first of all, I did it because I wanted to. Well, I feel like Danny, she went home with the bartender because she wanted to. Like, you guys both slept with random people that night. Relax. I mean, I did find one thing funny in this scene was when Fatima was talking about how she dated some guy and she knew he was on drugs, but you know, the D was good. And come to find out, her and Danny were dating the same guy. So Danny makes a comment about her wanting to go back home, you know, because Rodeo's there. And Karen's like, ooh, I wonder what Aaron's doing. Right after she says this, you already know, Andy is like, but we're having fun here. What do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. We were having drinks and all this stuff. And like Danny said, she just mad because she ain't got no man to go home to. I'm like, yep, that's exactly why. Andy, she really has an issue when her friends are doing better than her in certain areas of their lives. Next thing you know, Calvin looks over and he notices that's Sabrina and her friends or whatever. So he gets up, he comes over, he basically says hello, and Sabrina just sat there and did not say anything to this man. So he's standing there looking stupid, and you know, he's like, well, you ladies have a good night. And I'm like, Sabrina, that was your time to, you know, step aside and go talk to this man. I don't have time to see you dragging this on any longer. So Andy says that she already paid the check or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. And, you know, out of nowhere, here goes Sabrina talking about some, yeah, she has a whole lot of money because she has all of Gary's money. And it's like, okay, it's bad enough you've been pouting at this table the whole time. You blurting out Danny's business. You're mad because of a situation that you practically created. I don't need for Sabrina to be blurting out anybody else's business. Like, at the end of the day, like, she paid for y'all meal. What did that have to do with you blurting out the fact that she had Gary's money? That was nobody's business. So, you know, Andy gotta cover her tracks. It's like, I'm giving him that money back and I got a bonus from work. So now these ladies are going to leave, and of course we do see that Karen specifically tells Fatima that she had a good time with her. She really liked her. So the episode concludes with Andy getting to her apartment, and you know, she makes a phone call to Paris saying how she wants to have a glass of wine and she would love for him to come join her at her apartment, and she's going to text him the address. Lo and behold, who else is secretly in her apartment? Of course, it's Gary. His crazy self is sitting on her couch, and that is where the episode ends. Next week looks like it's going to be really juicy, and I can't wait to watch it. And if you guys have, you know, any comments that you want to talk about, go ahead and drop them down below. Go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe. You know, I would really love for this channel to grow. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.